Okay, so this next lesson is lesson 15 on factoring trinomials. But before we actually factor the trinomials, we need to learn what is called the x method. And so here are some x's with some numbers. If you read the directions, it says complete the following x's by defining two numbers that multiply to the top. So we need to find two numbers that when you multiply them get this number, but when you add them, they get this number. So those are called factors. So let's find the factors of 12. I'm just going to put it over here, maybe. Factors of 12. Okay, so I have 1 and I have 12. Now you have to remember you also have negative 1 and negative 12. You have 2 and 6. You have negative 2 and negative 6. And 3 and 4 and negative 3 and negative 4. So of these sets, which one of these in the set, when you add them together, gets 8? Well, 1 plus 12 would get you 13. Then negative 13. 2 plus 6, oh, that gets us 8. So I would put a 2 and a 6. It does not matter which order you put it in. I just like 2 and 6, so I put it like that. So I'm going to come over here to this next one. Now the difference between the negative 12 and the 12 is that negative sign. So I need to be careful when I do this one that I'm actually doing the correct factors. So I want 1 and negative 12, but I also can have negative 1 and positive 12. When I multiply those together, they do get the negative 12. So I also have 2 and negative 6, and negative 2 and positive 6. 3 and negative 4, and negative 3 and positive 4. Now you don't have to write down all of them. I'm just doing that because that's what we're doing right now. But which ones, when you add them together, get negative 4? So if I did the first ones, I would get 1 plus negative 12, which is negative 11. Then negative 1 plus 12, that would get me 11. 2 plus negative 6 would get me negative 4. That's what I want. So 2, negative 6. And that's all you do for these. So I'm going to do, I'll do one more. And then we can let you guys do a couple on your own. So here I have 1 and 24, negative 1 and negative 24. Now I'm going to stop for a second. Do you see how we're going to add to a negative 14? So that means that both of my factors are going to have to be negative. So I don't really need the positive ones this time. I just need the negative ones. So we're going to switch to just doing the negative ones. It'll be faster. So I have negative 2 and negative 12, negative 3 and negative 8, negative 4 and negative 6. Negative 5 doesn't go in. Okay, so which one of those factors gets us to the negative 14? Negative 2 and negative 12. Now, again, we found it right here. Did we really have to do the other two? No. I just did it to show you. Okay, so I want you to do these next two on your own. Okay, you should have gotten 6 and negative 6 for this one. And I believe since we're doing the negative 36, so, I could pick all sorts of things, but I think I'm going to pick 9, and I think negative 4. I think those two would add up to 5, and they multiply to get negative 36. Awesome. So let's look at these. These are actually from your book. Now, how are we going to get the top part of that x? So if I was looking at this, I have 15 is going to go here, and 8 is going to go here. So how from this equation right here did I get my 15? Now you're going to make the mistake and you're just going to say, oh, the C value. But really and truly, we're going to look at the number that's sitting in front of the x squared also, because we're going to get 15 by A times C. That's how we get our 15. And if you look at the equation up here, you'll see that the 8 comes from the B value. So when we're doing a generic one of these, A times C goes on top and the B goes on bottom. So let's look over at this one. Okay, so it already tells you what the answer is, so that's not even what we're looking for. What we did was we multiplied these two together. So where did I get that? I got it from 3 times negative 2, or A times C. Where did I get the negative 5 from? It's the B value. We're going to do a whole bunch more of these, so don't worry, we'll get to this. So up here, do you notice how these two problems are exactly the same? Okay, so we found that 3, 5 are the numbers that go in here. 3 and 5. Look what they've done down here. They've gotten rid of the 8x. They've gotten rid of the 8, and they've made it 3x plus 5x, because 3x plus 5x is going to get you the 8x. So then we do factoring by grouping that you've already done. So the 8x became 3x plus 5x. Where did it come from? Because 3 plus 5 equals 8, and 3 times 5 got you the 15. So let's look at this. Factor by grouping, just like we already did in the last. Oops, that covered way too much. Let's try this, just that part. If we notice right there, we have like terms. So now we're going to have y equals, we're going to have x plus 3, because that's the highlighted part, and then the leftover part gets written in the other set of parentheses. Hooray, we've just now factored. So let's try this one over here. Let's try the other one. Again, these two are the same problems. We found that if I did an x for this one, the AC goes on top, so that would be negative 6. The B goes on the bottom, and it's negative 5. So what are the factors of negative 6 that add to negative 5? And we found that up here, right here. So all we're going to do, oh, I put the negative first. It doesn't matter, but 1 and negative 6. The reason I picked it in that order is because that's what they did down here. Only reason I did that. The negative 5x became 1x minus 6x, and that's negative 5x. So down here again, they cut it in half. They took out the greatest common factor in both of those, just by factoring by grouping we did before. These two are exactly the same, so it's going to be y equals, I do the highlighted part in this set of parentheses, and I do the leftovers in the other set of parentheses. Fun, fun. So let's do it from, we're going to skip all the way down to the next page, and we're going to do this problem right here. So we're going to start off, and we're going to make our x. The AC is what goes on top. So AC is 9 times 2, which is 18. Then this down here is the B value, which is 9. So what are the factors of 18 that add to 9? So we have 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Oh, look at that, 3 and 6. Those add too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this same thing. I'm going to take 2x squared. I'm going to get rid of that 9x and replace it with 3x plus 6x. And then I'm going to have my 9. All I did was replace this 9x with these two. That's all I've done. So, next thing, I'm going to cut these two in half. I'm going to look at this first set, and they only have an x in common. So they have 2x plus 3. That's it. That's all they have in common. So I'll look at the second half. And I'll look at these. They have a 3 in common. Amazing. It comes out to 2x plus 3. Are my two sets of parentheses exactly the same? They are. So if they are the same, I write down the y, I write down what the highlighted portion would be, and then the leftover portion. And voila, you have just factored a trinomial. Okay, let's try one more here. Now, we are supposed to be looking to see if they have a GCF first. And I apologize because I didn't say that on the last couple. But let's look at it. Does this have a GCF? No, because 3 doesn't go into anything there. So we can clear that out first. So AC is going to go on top. So I take these two and I multiply them together, and I get 12. Then down here is where 8 goes. What are the factors of 12 that add to 8? So 1 and 12, 2 and 6. Oh, hallelujah, it's right there. 2 and 6. So I'm going to replace this 8 with this 8x with 2x and 6x. So y equals 3x squared, replacing the 8x with 2x plus 6x plus 4. Then again, I'm going to cut this in half right there, and I'm going to do some factoring. I look at the first two. What do they have in common? They have an x in common. So I do 3x plus 2. I look at the second two. What do they have in common? They have a 2 in common. So 3x plus 2. Are the two sets of parentheses exactly the same? They are. So I do y equals, I write down what's in the parentheses, and then I multiply it by what is left alone. Okay. Let's see. I think I will do, let's see which one to, you know what? I'm going to actually do number 4 with you. Does anybody see why I'm going to do number 4 with you? If you see that this is out of order, it's not even in the right order. It's got to be in descending order for this to work. I didn't talk about that before. But this needs to be in descending order. What that means is I have an x squared first, then I have an x, and then I don't have an x. I have just the constant all by itself. So then I need to do my x. So I multiply those together. Halt. I shouldn't do that. Ooh. Do you see? I didn't ask my question first. What do they have in common? If you look, don't they all have a 3 in common? So I have 3x squared minus 8x plus 4. Now those numbers are a lot more manageable than the ones we were going to have a minute ago. So we're going to take these two right here and we're going to multiply those together. And again, look at that. It's another 12. But this time it has a negative 8. So we just did this a minute ago. Right here, if I can let it zoom in. Now, instead of having positives, we'd have negatives. So instead of having 2 and 6, on this, we're going to have -2 and -6. But it does the exact same thing. So I'm going to actually put it in brackets just like I did on the other one. And I would have 3x squared. This is the one that we're splitting up. And it's going to be -2x minus 6x plus 4. Again, if you notice, all we did was replace the -8x with -2x and -6x because they add to get 8x. Okay, let's change the color for a minute. Oop, I don't want to go to that color. Let's go to purple. I look at that. Now, remember this 3 stays there. I look at these first two, and they have an x in common. Need a bracket. They have an x in common. So I have 3x minus 2. I look over here. Remember, if it's a leading coefficient that's negative, we need to take out the negative. What do they have in common? They have a 2 in common. 3x minus 2. Are what's in parentheses exactly the same? They are. So I do y equals 3, then parentheses for the highlighted portion, and then the leftovers. And voila, you have your factored form. Let's see if there's another one I really like. Actually, I think we're just going to do we'll come over here and do number 5. I like number 5. Now, if we look at this, they don't have a positive leading coefficient. They have a negative leading coefficient. So automatically I know I have to take out a negative. Now, if you have to remember that that's a -1, go ahead and put that 1 for yourself. They have nothing else that's in common. So then I'm going to put it in a bracket, and I'm going to say 2x squared minus 5x minus 18. So when I do my x method and I multiply these two together, some of you are saying, oh man, that's a big number. It's really not. It's just -36 and -5. Now, some of you are really good with your factors. Some aren't. Need to get better. Now, if you look at this, it has to be something that adds to get a -5. So if I have -1 and 36, aren't I going to have a positive number? I don't want a positive number. I want a negative number. So we're going to switch it around, and we're going to have 1 and -36. So the air quotes, the bigger number, or the number that their absolute value is the bigger number, that's the one that's going to have the negative on it. So 2 and -18. 3 and -12. 4 and -9. Ooh, there it is. 4 and -9. 4, -9. So I'm going to replace my -5x with 4 and -9. So I'm going to change colors, obviously. I like to do that. So 2x squared stays the same. Then plus 4x minus 9x, because 4x minus 9x gets -5x. Then we have minus 18. Y equals negative. I'm going to cut this right here. They have a 2x in common, so we're left with x plus 2. These, they have a leading coefficient of negative, so I take out a -9, and I get x plus 2. My two sets of parentheses are exactly the same. So make sure to write that negative that you've already factored out. Write down the x plus 2, because That's what they have in common. We factored that out. And a 2x minus 9. Okay, I actually want you to do number 3 real quick. How'd you do? Okay, let's try let's try one of these on number 15. No, I'm going to wait on that. So I would like you to go ahead and do 6 through 8. No, 6 through 11. Okay, so without giving away the next answers, here are the answers to 6 through 11. Okay, let's come back to this. Now I want to go to number 14. We don't necessarily need to do 12 and 13, but let's do 14. What do they have in common? Oh, they have a GCF. So I'm going to take out my 2 first, and then I get this. And some of you are going to say, oh, well, that I can't do that. That it doesn't make sense. There's not a third term. Well, it could also be written, it could be written like this. X squared plus 0x, because isn't that 0 your b value? And then minus 9. So if I did a t or an x method, I get negative 9 that adds to 0. So what are the factors of negative 9 that add to 0? That would be 3 and negative 3. So 2. Then we have x squared plus 3x minus 3x minus 9. Let's look at it. Do these two numbers add to 0? Yes. Okay. So if I go here, I have y equals 2, and then I factor out an x, and I'm left with x plus 3. These two have negative 3, so I have x plus 3. My 2 sets of parentheses are exactly the same. I write the 2 down, I write my highlighted factors down, and then I write the leftovers down. Let's try it one more time. Let's do this one. So, if I was to rewrite it, I would get this. 0x minus 100. What are the factors of negative 100 that add to 0? Find them. Negative 10 and positive 10. Could I have switched them around? Sure. So x squared minus 10x plus 10x minus 100. Cut this bad boy in half. Get y equals, oh, they have an x in common, x minus 10. They have an x in common. No, they don't. They have a 10 in common, x minus 10. Are the two sets of parentheses exactly the same? They sure are. So y equals x minus 10 times x plus 10. Okay. I want you to go ahead and do number 16. You should have gotten x plus 7, x minus 7. If you remember, we did the multiplying of these two before. Okay, good. Now if you want to do the rest of them, I will show you the answers to those. Here, I'll even make it like this. I will show you the answers to those, just in case you want to do them on your own. Remember to do math chats if you have any